any kind of ism, consumerism or whatever kind, any kind of ism will lead to a certain mindlessness. So mindless consumerism is definitely not towards human well-being. The advertising industry should focus on creating conscious consumer rather than mindless consumerism. Because consumption used to be a disease, you know. So even now it's a kind of an ailment. That is, we will not do… in our lives we will not do what's needed, we will do what is expected from somebody. This means your life completely derails. People who expect whatever they expect out of you, they themselves do not know a damn thing about their lives. To fulfill their expectations, if you live, obviously you will completely go off the track. So I feel the industry should focus on creating a more conscious consumer and a more conscious every kind. Ism means a certain mindlessness, simply doing something. Once this sets into a society, a mindless society will go in cycles, not really getting anywhere. Nothing profound will live in that society. Everything becomes profane. Right now, we're rapidly trying to go there. This is a nation, this is a culture where every aspect of life, simple or otherwise, everything had a deeper rooting, everything had always a deeper meaning. Simple things, how to sit, how to stand, how to eat, everything always had a deeper connotation. Because of this, no matter what kind of rigors outside situation offered us in the form of invasions, in the form of exterminations of certain kind, famines, whatever came, the spirit of India lived on undisturbed because of a very deep rooting. If you take away this deeper rooting in a human being and make him very, somebody who lives out of a mall, these people will get shattered very easily. You must understand this. Till recently, till last 25 years, 20 years I would say, the number of people who are psychologically deranged in this country is extremely low. I know there are a whole lot of argument and debates, oh that is because it's not recorded, that is because it is not documented. That is also a fact, undeniably it is there. But still, for 1 billion people, how many people are psychologically deranged is extremely small, simply because of this deeper rooting into every simple thing has a deeper meaning and a deeper possibility. Today, because he brought up the issue of women and children and whatever, the statistics say that 42% of women in United States of America over 45 years of age are all on antidepressants. If you take away a few medical formulations from the market, half the population will go crazy, that's what it means. That's not a healthy society. In many ways, that is a product of mindless consumerism. That is. After having seen that happening to one society, if we do not learn from that, we for sure mindless. Whatever kind of ism you follow, ism means mindlessness. It's very important that human societies function out of their intelligence, not just out of external tendencies that are going on right now. They will come and go. There will be a certain segment of society which does that, but pushing the larger segment of society into that kind of a mode clearly shows we are not interested in the well-being of human beings. We just want to sell something at any cost. And above all, if you go by consumerism, the only way you can sustain this is you're determined to keep one half of the population in abject poverty. Because if 7.2 billion people who live on this planet have to have a life in terms of consumerism, an average American citizen has, the Living Earth statistics says that we need 4.5 planets to sustain this. We only have half a planet left, one half is already taken. With half a planet, you're marketing for 4.5 planets. This is a dangerous process. The only way you can do this is one half of the population should be kept in abject poverty so that others can go in consumerism binge. I think a more sensible way of living is possible. This does not mean you do not enjoy your life, this does not mean you don't have things. Everybody can have what they need. Everybody can have what they can use, but just for the sake of satisfying somebody else's opinion who himself is mindless, if you go about digging up the planet, because whether you take a phone or a car or a spacecraft, you can only dig it out of this planet. We're going to dig the Mars, that's different, but right now, whether you make a safety pin or the biggest machine on the planet, you have to dig the earth. I'm not trying to render an ecological message. I'm talking about human beings. This is like the proverbial a Panchatantra story where a man is sitting on the wrong side of the branch and cutting it. If he succeeds, he will fail. That's not good. If you succeed, if you're going to fail. This is happening. Successful people on the planet, not so much in India yet, it will come. In the Western world, the most successful people do not carry the most joyful faces, okay? They carry really tense and agitated faces. So now we are sending out a message to the younger generation, success is suffering. This is a very wrong message. If you do this, what happened in the 60s in America will happen everywhere. The message was so clear that success is not worthwhile, so the younger generation chose, they thought it's better to sit on the street side and smoke pot. Definitely, at least we're happy. That's the philosophy of the youth. That will come everywhere if you send out this message that success is suffering. Success is the sweetest thing in human life. It doesn't matter whether we do small things or big things, success is the most important thing. If success becomes suffering, if a society gets this message, that society is for sure down the drain society. So consumerism, creating a conscious consumer who can pick and choose what he wants is different. But mindless consumerism is definitely pushing us in that direction. I know all the advertising giants are here, I would please request you, in the interest of your children and the future of the nation and the world, it's very important how we promote this.
So, spiritualism also has an ism at the end.
If it's an ism, that is also mindless.
Where do you see the balance? See, when the ball is set rolling, today, I'm sure that if I was to request some of the mothers out here that refrain from pushing your child into this, that, the other, I'm sure all of you will throw me out of the house because the ball has got rolling. There are other students in the class. They want their child to be better than the others. So the question really
that
is…
they do only till they're 12 years of age. After that, they're doing their own thing.
True, but I'm saying that if in a society which around the world is moving in that direction, what are the few suggestions that you would give to people to try and bring that sense of balance that you're talking about?
India, still largely, the parents are still pushing their children towards a certain educational qualification because survival is still a strong force. Except in a thin veneer of society, which has gone beyond survival. The larger part of India is still striving for survival. In most families still somehow get to the engineering, get to the medicine, get to IAS, something because survival. Survival mode is still strong. That should not last forever. But when a conscious mode comes, when survival is not the big issue, when conscious mode comes, at least now there are no compulsions. When survival mode was on, there is a certain compulsion. Everybody became doctors, whether they liked it or not. Everybody becomes IT engineer, whether they like it or not, because survival. But once the survival mode is over, the blessing of being beyond survival concerns is that you can choose. You want to create another level of compulsiveness, this is madness. This is sheer madness. When survival is in question, everything is by compulsion. The dictates of survival will determine what you should do and what you should not do, or what you can do or what you cannot do. Very few will escape that. But once the dictates of survival are gone, you're off the survival mode, this is a time when you should consciously choose. This is not a time to imitate other people. This is not a time to take mass decisions. This is a time individual people can flower. Because the essence of human life is that individual human beings can grow to their full potential. If that doesn't happen, you have degraded the humanity. You have taken away the possibility of what those individual human beings could be. Our education systems are still in that mode. These education systems were created so that you could be a cog in the larger machinery of industry or business or whatever they have created. Reducing a human being into a cog who serves a certain machine is once again only significant as long as survival is in question. Once that's taken care of in a society, it should not exist, but unfortunately, we try to fix them into a different machine. When you have children, you must understand, first of all you must understand, children don't belong to you. They don't come from you, they only come through you. You must understand the privilege that another life passes through you and becomes real. You must be always grateful and see it as a privilege. This is not a time to exercise your right of property. It's not your property. An individual human being cannot be your property. It is not for you to fulfill all your unfulfilled dreams through your children. Yes. It is not for you to drive them in any particular way, harness them in any particular way, no. Does it mean to say you just leave them? So the question is, if I don't influence them, somebody else on the street will influence him, somebody else in the school will influence him, so better I influence him. In terms of… the best thing you could do with your children is… It's okay, we're going off the advertising track.
I'm still there.
Okay. We'll come back to that. When you… when you have children, one thing is, the moment a child arrives, a whole lot of parents think it's time to teach. I want to ask you a simple question. Between you and your child, if the child is below 10 years of age, between you and your child, who is more joyful, you or the child? The child. Then you please tell me, who should be a consultant for life? The miserable one or the joyful one? So in the process of so-called growing up, people have become so rigid, they smile once in 5 days. Laughter happens when they get drunk only. Only drunken laughter you hear, you don't hear simple, joyful laughter in many places. So they have become like this. When a child comes unknowingly, without knowing why, you laugh, you crawl under the sofa, You do this and that, you learn to throw a ball properly. You do things which concern life, which you would have never done by yourself, simply because this bundle of joy has arrived in your family. And it's a privilege. It's not for you to shape it and twist it and make it like you or not make it like you. Your business is only to protect it from every influence. This is the best thing you can do. People keep asking me, Sadhguru, how is it that a whole range of things you can do and you know, how is it? So the thing is, I remained uneducated. It's not an easy task, I want you to understand. Because from the first moment you're born, your parents, teachers, adults, just about everybody in the world is trying to teach you a whole lot of things that never worked in their lives. Yes. They're even telling you where God lives, His address, His children's names, His birthday, everything they know, but they don't know a damn thing about themselves. So, a whole lot of things. If you can keep your child just the way he was born, an active intelligence, no conclusions, you would do the best thing for him, believe me. But he won't agree because he would like to influence him with his advertisement.
I only have dogs, sir, and they don't listen to me anyway. So I'm fine. You spoke about survival. Now there's a very difficult thing, where do you draw the line between survival and consumerism? Like for instance, in our country, there's a whole lot of emerging rural middle class. Where do they draw the line? They're looking at you, they're looking at your cards. So where do you draw the line? What is survival? I think it was survival when a man lived in a cave. Then he wanted some more air, so he made a window. Then slowly he made a garden. Then he made bedrooms and bathrooms. Where does it end? Now, do you call it consumerism, or do you call it betterment of lifestyle, or where does it stop? I don't know.
See, right now our standards have become like this. Everybody wants to do what America does. If all the Americans put carbon dioxide in their water and drink it, everybody drinks it and says, oh, this is the real thing. Even a kindergarten child knows this body does well with oxygen, not with carbon dioxide. If all the Americans wear only blue trousers, everybody in the world, across the world in blue trousers. If all the Americans tear their pants in their knees, everybody tears their pants in their knees and walks around. So knowingly or unknowingly, we have promoted America to a leadership position. So because we're just imitating that, we need to understand, America evolved as a nation in a completely different kind of geography, in a different kind of atmosphere. The people who went as the first, today they call it as the fathers, of founding fathers or whatever, these were not the elite of United Kingdom, these were not the most educated, people who were treated very badly, segregated in many ways, who could not have a good life here, risked their lives to go across the oceans. It's not like today, a few hundred years ago, going across Atlantic is as good as leaving the world. People took that risk because the life here was so bad and so without possibility. So when these people went, the first thing is they saw a lush, limitless land. For somebody who lived on a small island, America, North America is a limitless amount of land. So they went and the only way was to splurge everything, from water to land, agriculture, everything that they built super-size, because they were just working out their poverty states that they had there. This happens in every society, but unfortunately that culture grew in the same way and the whole world is taking to it. Is it right or wrong? I am not questioning the morality of it, I am only questioning the practicality of it. I am not saying which is right, which is wrong. Everybody can live whichever way they want. So if all of us want to live whichever way we want, at least we must have this much. At the beginning of 20th century, we were only 1.6 billion people. Today, we are 7.2 billion people. The United Nations predicts that by 2050 we'll be 9.6 billion people. If we really want to splurge and do whatever we want, at least we must reduce our population. As a generation, if you do not produce children, at least that way, you can do your consumerism whatever you want. You want billions of people to grow and then consume, this is suicide. This is nothing else but suicide. So, instead of leaving it to the predictions and saying by 2050 we'll be close to 10 billion people, if we consciously aim, by 2050 we'll be 3.5 billion people, not by killing anybody, just by postponing the reproduction process. If you do that, you don't have to express so much concern about what individual people are doing. And another thing is, if people are little… there is more space in the world, the need to imitate somebody will be much less. This is happening because we are all cramped up in one place. What somebody does immediately affects us and suddenly we look high or low. So we have to upgrade our stuff too immediately. If there was little more space, you will see the whole consumerism process will come down. There is all packed up in cities like this. In one apartment house, if there are 500 people living, if one kid carries this one, everybody wants to carry that one. Little more space would do that, but that space is only possible if you work on the population. Right now, this whole discussion, we're trying to work on human aspirations. We will never succeed. This is only I'm talking, but we will never succeed. You cannot control human aspirations, but you can control human populations, for sure.
Now, I think a lot of us are confronted with this kind of question very often by more evolved people, that advertising actually promotes consumerism. What is your take on that? Because I personally believe if somebody is making something and somebody is willing to buy something, then we are doing a fairly good job.
I don't believe advertising is the basis of consumerism. Probably a sensible advertising definitely creates a conscious consumer. Maybe, I don't know much about this, looking at I only look at the news channels. So looking at the advertising process in the news channels, I would say only about 15 to 20% is kind of mindlessly pushing people towards something. Others are more trying to create a choice that one can choose. 15% is not going to be so corrupting.
At least something is 15% for us. It used to be commission earlier. Now coming to advertising, you are a master communicator yourself, and I think it's our opportunity for you, for us to hear your views, because you actually don't even have a physical product, and yet there are millions who are running after you to know you're a master communicator. I at least can say, hello, would you like my specs? See, nice specs, better than that one's. So I've got something to sell. You have nothing tangible, physical, not tangible, but the physical.
I appreciate the correction.
You communicate so brilliantly. Now, where I am relating this question to our part of the world is that I have a point of view on that how you say it is as important as what you say. Whereas in our business, there are many people, particularly clients, please listen carefully, who are only interested in the what, and they say, okay, why don't you reduce this scenario? This is not selling the product. Whereas some of us believe out here that the how is more as important, if not more important than the what. Now, you have said so many things and said them so beautifully. You are a master storyteller. So can we hear your views on the what and the how?
Can I tell you a story?
Lovely.
Shankaran Pillai.
I had been warned.
Shankaran Pillai was a compulsive bridge player. Every day in the evening, he and 4 of his friends gathered and every day they played bridge. And they played for money, some stakes, and that day the stakes went up. One of the friends, in a single hand, lost $1,000. And in 2 minutes he clutched his heart, had a heart attack, fell there, right there and died. So all the remaining 4 friends stood up. They played the game standing, out of respect for the departed friend. Then after the game was over, now somebody has to convey this news to his wife. So, nobody wanted to do this, so they picked lots. And then Shankaran Pillai got the thing. They picked the cards and he got it, so he had to go. They said, see, you have to do this well. You have to do this really discreetly. This is not like you just go and say, your husband is dead. You cannot say that. You have to say it properly. Shankaran Pillai said, don't worry, I'm really discretion itself. I'm the embodiment of discretion. You don't worry about me. So he went home and knocked on the door. The wife came and she opened the door with the security chain and asked, what? Aggressive. He said, you know, I'm a friend of your husband. All the more, what? So he said, your husband lost $1,000 in a single hand today. She screamed at him, ask him to drop dead. I will convey the message to him.
That's fantastic.
So now, how you say it is most important. It's more important than what you say many times, because what you say, even if it's the most profound thing, can be misunderstood and distorted in no time in other people's minds. Great things have caused enormous damage to people and to larger humanity simply because of the way it's been said. The religions of the world have caused much damage to humanity, much bloodshed and much pain, more pain than anything else on the planet probably, simply because of the way it's been said. What has been said is not really the problem. The way it's been said has caused all this pain and suffering. So how you say it is extremely important. First of all, we need to understand, when we say something, if you speak, whether you're in the advertising business or otherwise, if you speak, you must… if you make it this way, that your speech is about the people or the person that you're talking to right now, it's not about you. If you are a compulsive speaker, that you must speak, then it's a different kind of ailment. But if you say, I'm communicating, what does it mean? It's about the person, the way they get it, not about the way I say it. The way they're going to get it is most important. So if you understand this one thing, whenever you speak, it is always about the person who is sitting in front of you, it's not about you, then you will say it well.
I wanted to hear it from you, but they don't listen to me. That brings me to, on the how. In our business, how is actually the area of emotions, and the product is the area of practical. I've actually read something. If tears of love, joy and ecstasy have not washed your cheeks, you are yet to taste life. I want you to elaborate on that, the role of emotion, the how in communication.
If you, right now, if you're walking out of the hall and if you see somebody standing there, tears coming, the normal conclusion in a society like this would be, maybe they're suffering something, some pain, some suffering. Tears and pain have gotten too linked up in most societies. Tears have nothing to do with pain. If any experience of life becomes truly intense, tears will come. But for most human beings, the deepest experience that they have is pain. So they have linked pain and tears together. If you become very joyful, tears will come. If you become very loving, tears will come. Ecstasy will bring tears. Even anger brings tears. Shame brings tears. If anything crosses a certain level of intensity of experience, if you just look at something, if a visual image without any emotion is very intense, tears will come. It is not necessary there must be an emotion behind it. It is the intensity which brings tears. If you have not known life in its as much intensity as possible, if life has not overwhelmed you, what the hell, what are you doing here? If life and the process of life does not overwhelm you, why are we alive, really? If aliveness has touched you, you will see, if you sit in a certain state of meditativeness, just the peacefulness, if you sit for 2 hours, it'll be just going. It is not because of any emotion, just the intensity of peacefulness. But for most people, their love, their joy, their peacefulness is never so intense, but their pain is intense. If you just prick yourself with a pin, it goes to the core. But the joy and other things never touch like that, because that is how people have structured themselves. This is what needs to change. Are you here to experience life, or are you here to avoid life? This is the question. There are two fundamental forces that are constantly working within a human being. One is the instinct of self-preservation, which is always telling you to put a strong boundary around yourself so that nobody can hurt you and harm you and whatever else. Another is constantly wanting to expand. Every human being wants to expand limitlessly. They may not admit it right now. They say, just one more thing, if it happens, everything will be fine. If that one thing happens, there'll always be one more thing and one more thing. They believe in going towards the infinite in installments. Approaching the infinite in installments is a hopeless method. It is never going to happen. You cannot count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and one day say it's infinite. Such a possibility does not arise. If you want to approach the infinite, you must give up the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the security of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keeps people like this. This is a mode where you have gotten into your mode as to how to avoid life, because some experience of life, your own or somebody else's, has brought pain. So the best thing is to insulate yourself from life itself, because life is the source of pain. You will notice this if at any time, I've seen people, I've never had a first-hand experience of these things fortunately, because this has always been my problem. My parents, my father always worried. He would say, what will happen to this boy? He has no fear in his heart. I never thought fear was a virtue. Why is fear a virtue? Fear is the most debilitating emotion that a human being can go through, but that is considered a virtue. Even if you say divine, even if you say God, you become God-fearing, isn't it? Because somebody's out there to do something to you all the time. So we have thought fear will make life safe. No, the only thing that makes your life safe is your sense, not fear. Fear will avoid life. If you become fearful, the first thing that happens to you is you become breathless, because the boundary that you have established is so effective now, even to breathe, it becomes difficult. You're in a cubicle where you cannot breathe by yourself. The first sign of paranoia is always breathlessness, because if you have to live, you have to transact. What the tree exhales, you must inhale. What you exhale, the tree must inhale. The person, maybe your mother-in-law is sitting next to you, you hate her, but what she exhales, you must inhale. Otherwise it's not going to work. These boundaries are there only in your psychological space. The life space is not like that. Today modern physics is telling you, as you sit here, every subatomic particle in this body is reverberating with everything else in the cosmos. It is no more a philosophy, it is an established science. And this is something that we have always known when we utter the word yoga, because most of the yoga that you're seeing today in India is a rebound from the American coast. So yoga means contorting your body in some impossible physical posture. No, the word yoga means union. You experientially know that this existence is happening as one whole enormous process. So there's one dimension of you which is instinct of self-preservation, which wants to draw boundaries, another dimension wants to limitlessly expand. Are these two things against each other, contradict each other? No. One is concerned with the physicality, the other is concerned with the remaining part of who you are, whatever that is. Only the physical needs a boundary. In fact, the fundamentals of physicality is a defined boundary. You can call this a physical body only because it has a boundary. If I remove the boundaries of this body, you cannot call it physical anymore, because the fundamental and the basis of physicality is a defined boundary. But there is something within you which is always longing to be little more than who you are right now, yes or no? Whoever you may be, how much ever you might have achieved, you want to be little more than who you are right now. Your currencies may be different. One person may be looking for fame, another person may be looking for money, another person for wealth, love, knowledge, whatever. But everybody wants to be something more. If that something more happens, something more. I'm asking, how much more would settle you for good? If you understand that the only way you can settle this is, this does not want something more, it wants it all. If you want to have all, it can't be physical in nature. So if you realize this, and if your experience of life transcends the limitations of the physical, now suddenly all is yours, because it is the boundary which made you feel that you have to conquer that. Either you can conquer that or you can dissolve into it. Conquering the cosmos is a stupid idea, isn't it? Dissolving into the cosmos is a practical idea. So this is what yoga meant. If this happens in the inner experience of the human being, that you feel limitless within yourself, then you don't have to worry about what is the advertising message, consumerism. No, everybody will do what they think is needed. Nothing more, nothing less. Every human being should do what is needed for his individual life. Nothing more, nothing less. If you do less, that means you'll be inefficient. If you do more, the excess is also leading to inefficiency. You will not realize the full potential of who you are. So the intensity of experience comes within you only when you address the longing to expand. If you address the self-preservation mode, it will shut off everything. The only tears you will know is of pain, suffering, fear, agitation, frustration. But if you empower the other dimension of nature within you, one dimension of nature is trying to put a wall around yourself, another wants to go limitless. Only when you touch that, only when your life is carried by that dimension of nature within you, you will see every leaf, every flower, an ant can bring tears to you. I must tell you this. Okay? I had a great-grandmother who people in those days said, she's a devil of a woman. Not because she did any evil to anybody, it's just that if she laughed, the whole street would shake. Like that she laughed. In those days, women were not supposed to laugh loudly like that. I don't know how people manage to live without women who cannot laugh. It should be tough. But she is a woman who when she laughed, everything around her shook. She lived up to 113, 113 years of age. When I met her, she was over 100. So at the age of 68, she moved out of the family structure. By then, she had buried her husband, she had buried many of her children, a few